Hello, once again, I'm Cosmic, and today we're going to be taking a look at Randal's Monday, a new point-and-click adventure developed by Nexus Game Studios and published by Daedalic Entertainment. Daedalic are well known for developing and publishing good story-driven point-and-click adventures, like the successful Deponia games. In Randal's Monday, you play, as you would expect, Randal, and yes, it's Monday. Randal himself is a very dislikable character. Take a lazy, borderline alcoholic smartass, then add some kleptomania, and finally make them a sociopath, and you have Randal. Randal is certainly that drinking buddy that we all had growing up that we didn't really like, but was good to have around at a party. But he's a whole lot worse than that. The story starts in a bar. Randal, his best friend Matt, and Matt's girlfriend Sally are drinking to celebrate their engagement. While Sally is away, Matt shows Randal the engagement ring that he got for her for a Dorito from a homeless guy. So enters the Lord of the Rings quotes left, right and centre. After too much to drink and throwing up in the alley, Matt drops his wallet with the ring of power inside, and Randal, being a kleptomaniac, picks up the wallet and keeps it for safekeeping, but strangely doesn't give it back that same night. In the morning, Randal finds that a series of bad things happen to him, mainly his own fault mind you, but through more story which I won't spoil, you discover that the ring is cursed. Soon Randal finds himself trapped in a time loop, repeating the same Monday over and over, except there's one difference. Everything he does changes the past, present and future. So while he repeats the same Monday over and over, the things that he has direct contact with can be affected by him. An example of this is the fire escape next to his apartment. Early on in the game, you use that to avoid your landlord, and the whole thing collapses. And so from every Monday from that point on, the fire escape remains broken and it never resets. So anything that Randal has contact with or can be affected by will remain changed forever. I'll be the first to admit that point and clicks really aren't my thing, not unless you have a great setting and a great story. Their repetitive nature grinds on me pretty fast, and in terms of mechanics, Randal's Monday is no different than any other point and click. Throughout each location, there are an array of objects and people to interact with. Usually this takes the form of a primary interaction and a secondary interaction. Primary interactions are where Randal actually physically does something, like initiating a conversation or stealing something. Secondary interactions are almost always where Randal will make an observation about an object or a person, and while this can be simply as stating what the item is, it's sometimes these observations will actually contain clues to what to do with that item or that person. If you're unsure of which objects are interactable, you can hold down the spacebar, which will light up all interactable objects in an area, but not all of them will be actually important. Movement between locations is done via the subway system. At location, you can walk between rooms, or if you're impatient, you can double click the entrances to instantly load the location. One thing I really enjoyed about Randal's Monday was the way that the game self-deprecates itself. An example of this can be seen when using the subway on the load screen. When the load screen comes up, you have helpful hints at the bottom of the screen, and while there are some that pertain to the game, often they are hints like upgrading your base benefits all your troops, or other references to different video game genres. The game makes fun of being a point and click, and this makes the whole game quite endearing in a way. As with many point and clicks, Randal's Monday is filled with puzzles. These take the form of finding ways to acquire items and achieve your goals. Randal, being a kleptomaniac, will often have to steal items, however usually someone is around watching you, so you'll have to devise a creative way to distract them. This usually involves using other items that you've acquired. Sometimes you'll even need to combine items in your inventory to form new items which are often wacky and fun, like the extendable duck hanger. One of my biggest dislikes of the game is the inventory. The inventory is done like a comic book, which while it is aesthetically pleasing, in terms of functionality it sucks. To combine items, you have to click on an item in the inventory and then click on the other one that you want to try and combine it with. However, if it doesn't work, both are then deselected. This means, say that the item that you want to experiment with is on the 4th page, and you want to experiment with items to combine it with on the 1st page. It means that you have to keep switching between pages, and then every time something doesn't work, you have to keep flicking through the comic book. It becomes a real time-consuming pain, and it just makes the whole notion of trying ideas out laborious, and it's just a drain on patience as well. The puzzles themselves tended to annoy me as well. Now, I understand I'm not great at point and clicks, but I'm a pretty logical person, yet there were a number of occasions where I literally had no idea what to do. The game doesn't really do a good job of giving you an idea about how to get things done, which is fine most of the time, but occasionally you'll have to do something where I literally sat there and thought, I would have never guessed to have do that with that item. Luckily, there is a walkthrough hint system in the game that you can access, which will literally tell you step by step what to do. However, not only does it make the game way too easy, it'll show up on your Steam achievements that you used the help guide, and in my opinion, they should have had a decent hint system in the game that isn't the almost cheat sheet that they went for. After all, it's great that the game forces you to actually use your brain to think how to solve things, but one thing I learned from the game is that I myself have no creativity or ingenuity whatsoever. Where Randal's Monday shines is in its character, humour and frequent references to video games, sci-fi and general geek culture. There isn't one location or conversation in the game that isn't flooded with funny quotes and nods to things. The whole main story itself is a nod to several cult sci-fi and fantasy films, and while the game never made me laugh out loud, you cannot help but smile at the various references throughout, and the characters in the game do give you cause to have a good chuckle to yourself from time to time. In conversations, you have choices available to you that often contain some funny jokes and references to some film or some video game somewhere. Speaking of the characters, they are all pretty well thought out. Randal is a very dislikable character. However, it's his very nature that requires him to be the protagonist of this game. It's because Randal's a sociopath and a kleptomaniac that it is acceptable to steal things that you need or screw over people who get in your way. Narratively, not only would it not make sense for a decent guy to be doing these things, but anyone with actual sanity would probably not be able to handle the events that take place in the game. While the whole game is tongue-in-cheek in its humour and its characters, it does have some important messages throughout. The game does look great. Its cartoon, grimy appearance works really well, and everything looks fantastically well drawn. Sound-wise, it also hits top marks, not only for the sound effects in the game, but the voice acting is surprisingly good throughout. Yes, it's a little cheesy sometimes, but that's usually because it's supposed to be, and I have to say that the writing of the game is so well done. Often, Randal will break the fourth wall in a funny way, with one occasion telling the player that it's their fault that his life is getting worse, and he often remarks at the player when you're trying to do something that's not going to work, by saying, if you think that'll work, you'll need to stop playing and take a rest. The characters, story, culture references and breaking of the fourth wall all make for a very enjoyable experience. Randal's Monday is certainly an enjoyable point-and-click adventure, and with its well-written dialogue and nods to video games, movies alike, it'll make the playthrough well worth it. If you enjoy point-and-click games, or just games packed with humour and fun, I certainly would recommend picking up Randal's Monday. It does have a few frustrating problems, but nothing that detracts from enjoying the experience overall. Plus, with 7 chapters that are all a good length, you'll easily rack up 15 to 20 hours game time, so it makes it well worth the money. And that's Randal's Monday. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Do like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.